Good morning. Welcome to the worship service of the Unitarian Universalist Church in Idaho Falls. My name is Cindy Miller, and I am your worship associate for today. And today's service is led by Arthur Kull. Whether you're a longtime member or if this is your first time here, we welcome you as you are. We hope that you will find a message here that inspires you, a message that transforms you, and a loving and caring community that gives meaning to your life. We haven't received any announcements for today. If you have any, please post them in the chat box on the right of your screen. It's important to thank our technical team, Drew and Daniel and Josh, who make this service possible, so thank you. And if you have joys and concerns and sorrows and or milestones that have affected your life recently and you wish to share them with the congregation, please open the chat box and put them there in the space provided. Thank you. In this time of COVID and virtual meetings, we remind you that this church still needs your support. In this spirit, I read this short paragraph by Victoria Weinstein, the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Greater Lynn, Massachusetts. We say in our church that the offering is a sacrament of the free church. What we mean by that is we believe it is a blessing to be able to govern and support our religious community ourselves, to make possible by our generosity everything we dream of and do to live out our shared values. Every week, we lift up the spiritual value of generosity by taking an offering for the ministers of this church. Our virtual plate then, as it is passed among us, becomes filled with the evidence of that generosity. It is our harvest gathered in every week for what nourishes us most. You can make your contribution by mailing a check to the church at P.O. Box 50376 in Idaho Falls, or by going to the church's website at idahofallsuu.org and click on Donate in the upper right corner. And then what is given in love is received with deep gratitude and love. May this congregation be worthy of all your gifts. Blessed be. Now let us enter into the spirit of worship with these thoughts, part of a work by Ma Teresa Tet Castillo Gallardo. Ultimate grace, the heart of every matter, in every perfection and imperfection, in all senses and tenses, in moments of every right and wrong, presenting choices to inquiring hearts. You are in the purpose and in the journey of mishaps. You are in moments of understanding and misunderstanding. We have but to seek and invoke you and enable the work of your Spirit. A prayer is but an articulated common dream. We invoke our ultimate concern for the work of faith. We long to be hand in hand, creating a world where everyone belongs. Please help me ring in the service by becoming present to this space and time, no matter where you are. I will ring the peace bell 3 times, and as I do so, breathe deeply, breathe in peace, and for as long as you can hear its sounds, I invite you to slowly breathe in and slowly breathe out, and let the peace you will feel bring you into our shared sacred space, wherever you are physically located. We now start this service with our prelude. Please join me now in reading the Church's covenant. Love is the spirit of this community and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Arthur will now light our chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism, to illuminate these thoughts by Deborah Burrell. Fire consumes and casts a bright light. May our chalice flame consume our regrets for the past, our fears about the future, and our worries about today. May it light a path of joy and peace.
Spirit of life and love, we gather, reaching out across the wires, waving from a safe distance, to come together in religious community. From living room to front porch to car seat, we gather as we are able, ready to be of service to each other, to the world, ready to build a community of hope and of love. We are apart, but we feel together, offering our love, our commitment, our hope, and our prayers in service to one another and this world. I invite you now to join us in singing hymn number 301, Touch the Earth, Reach the Sky.
We now dedicate time to our joys, concerns, sorrows, and milestones, a time to share with this religious community events that have affected our lives in the recent past, and to speak out for those we want to hold in our thoughts. Daniel will now read your joys, concerns, sorrows, and milestones, while Arthur lights a candle for you. They should also be visible in the chat box on the right side of your screen.
Okay, we have a joy from Anita Carpenter. My grandson Tyler and his wife Lindsay will be making me a great-grandmother in this coming spring. Yippee! There's another joy from Molly Brinkerhoff to visit our son Doug and his wife Molly last weekend at their new home. There's a concern from David Bogart. Her concern is that her friend Yolanda Pliers is mourning the death last month of her 58-year-old brother to COVID. And I guess Dennis Jorgensen's joy is that he's canning his last jars of plums this season. And I think that's it.
We light this last candle to lift up these joys and concerns as well as the others that remain in the silence of our hearts.
Our reading today is from the UUA's website on what do we believe about God. Unitarian Universalists have many ways of naming what is sacred. Some believe in a God. Some don't believe in a God. Some believe in a sacred force at work in the world and call it love, mystery, source of all, or spirit of life. We are thousands of individuals of all ages, each influenced by our cultures and our life experiences, to understand the ground of our being in our own way. Unitarian Universalists are agnostic, theist, atheist, and everything in between. We join together not because we have a shared concept of the divine. Rather, we gather knowing that life is richer in community than when we go it alone. We gather to know and be known, to comfort and be comforted, to celebrate the mystery that binds us each to all. We welcome you in the fullness of your beliefs. We welcome you in the exploration of life's deepest questions in a spiritually diverse, supportive, and challenging community. Please join us now in singing hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. You must wonder why I'm offering a service about theology to members of a congregation who have checked their past doctrines and theologies at the door of this church. One of the reasons is that having been a Unitarian Universalist for 42 years, I am still longing to discover new fundamental and spiritual aspects of our faith. We often cite our statement of principles and purposes as a central guiding light of our faith. As precious as they are as value statements, they do not address the fundamental question about the theology that unites us. As evidenced by the variety of elevator speeches we hear at conferences, we often do not know how to define our faith to those who ask. And we seem eager to articulate what we do not believe in, but have a much harder time finding common ground in what unites us on spiritual matters. What I will attempt to do here is to articulate how I view one of the fundamental elements of our theology. At the workshop Theology for a Secular Age, offered by Reverend Galen Gingrich, the senior minister at the All Souls Church in New York, at the 2009 General Assembly in Salt Lake, I came away with a new awareness about our faith. But I also came away with a desire to get deeper into the topic. Many of the concepts I will talk about are taken from that session. Some of Reverend Gingrich's sermons, and my own experience and thoughts. Reverend Gingrich raised many of the crucial questions we need to address as individuals and as a religious community. For example, how do we know what we most truly know? What is the nature of existence and how do we fit into the picture? What in the world is divine, if anything? What is the uniquely human challenge? What are the purpose of faith and the role of religion? What does it mean to be a religious community? How shall we live to transform ourselves and the world? Great questions all. But in the time allocated this morning, I will mostly deal with the central element of theology that other faiths take for granted, but that we Unitarian Universalists often have problems with: the divine, also known as God. As the Greek root words theos and logos indicate, theology is about how we describe God. More generally, it is the study of religious faith, practice, the role of religious community, the source of ethical standards, and the source of experience. In the 4th century AD, Church Father St. Augustine famously said, "I believe, therefore I understand." As children of the Enlightenment, you and I move in the opposite direction, not from belief to understanding, but from understanding to belief. We take everything we know into account as we decide what to believe, and that belief may change with new knowledge and with new experience. Enlightened faith never asks us to set aside what we know. Theology begins with big questions. Where do we come from? Who are we? Where are we going? But for many, there is none bigger than the one about what we mean by the word God, especially whether it is still useful in the age of science and reason. Many have grappled with this question over the years without being able to give a meaningful answer. Let me make a practical observation here about our own church. If we expect Unitarian Universalism to flourish in the future, it would certainly help if the idea of God plays a role in our faith. In a survey conducted by the Gallup organization in 2019, 87% of Americans say they believe in God. If we restrict our appeal to the remaining 13%, then Unitarian Universalist churches face an uncertain future, since most of the unbelievers want to remain unchurched. Over the course of history, human conceptions of God have vacillated between two theological extremes: God as transcendent and God as immanent. A transcendent God stands completely apart from the natural world and rules over it as creator and judge. An immanent God exists within the natural world as the principal order to which creation conforms. Those who think that God is separate from the world face a second question: does God actively meddle with creation? For example, can God intervene in the body of a favored believer to heal a serious disease? Or, in response to a fervent prayer, can God remove the red pickup from my favorite parking spot in front of Albertsons when it rains? Or did God really punish people of Florida with the devastating Hurricane Sally for some unknown sins? Those are all good questions, which leads me to the formulation of three possibilities for a transcendent God. God knows and controls all processes in the universe. This is the omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient God. The second would be God does not control the physical part of the universe, but knows about and intervenes in people's lives. Omniscient, omnipresent, but not omnipotent. And the third, God created the universe and its natural laws, but lets the universe develop according to these laws and does not intervene. Well, we cannot pretend to know which version of God is the most likely one. However, the fundamental question that remains is whether such a God exists at all. One of the many arguments used to prove the God's existence, is the cosmological argument. It goes like this: everything that exists must have a cause. Since everything must have a cause, the universe must have a cause. Nothing can be the cause of itself. Since nothing can be the cause of itself, the universe cannot be the cause of itself. Since everything must have a cause and nothing can be the cause of itself, something outside the universe must have caused the universe. God is the only thing outside the universe. Since something outside the universe must have caused the universe, and God is the only thing outside the universe, God caused the universe. Therefore, God exists. You must wonder where I go with this. Quite simply, it is to show that theological arguments over the existence and nature of God usually end up in having to take it on faith. And as Mark Twain once said, faith is believing in what you know ain't so. But is that the end of the story? Not really. The other way to look at this from the perspective of the immanent God is that we humans are part of the web of life, and the web of life is part of the physical environment of the universe. Harvard biologist E.O. Wilson, in his book The Creation, An Appeal to Save Life on Earth, shows the danger of what he calls the philosophy of exemptionalism. Exemptionalism supposes that the special status of humanity lifts us above the laws of nature, whether we believe from a secular point of view that the human genius will prevail, or whether we believe we are in the hands of God. Wilson's main theme is that if we humans, believing to be above everything else, disrupt a major link in the biodiversity of the web of life, we might cause our own demise. We can take this idea of humans being part of the web of life one step further. In 2008, the think tank The Edge organized a special event entitled Life, What a Concept, with 6 scientific luminaries participating. One of the statements that intrigued me was that cosmic bodies emit and absorb matter on a daily basis. As an example, it is estimated that we receive 150 pounds of matter from Mars every year. This points to the fact that Earth is not an isolated planet, but constantly exchanges matter with the cosmos. We used to believe that it took 4 billion years for life to develop on Earth, that is the age of the solar system. But with the exchange of cosmic matter, we can safely assume that critical elements of life had a much longer time horizon to evolve from atoms to molecules to simple cells to complex living things. That time frame is 14 billion years. That is the age of the universe. And according to astrophysicist Frank Drake, there are 10,000 planets with the potential to accommodate and or develop life in our own galaxy alone, with about 10 billion of them in the universe. The point here is that life is an integral part of the universe and that we are an integral part of it, whether in the same form as here on Earth or not. Looking at the different dimension, this one of the human experience, theoretical physicist Freeman Dyson made an interesting statement in his essay entitled Our Biotech Future in a 2008 New York Review of Books. He said, "The epoch of Darwinian evolution based on competition between species ended about 10,000 years ago, when a single species, Homo sapiens, began to dominate and reorganize the biosphere. Since that time, cultural evolution has replaced biological evolution as the main driving force for change. Cultural evolution is running 1,000 times faster than Darwinian evolution, taking us into a new era of cultural interdependence, which we call globalization." The above are a few elements of our civilization's journey of discovery about how the universe evolved and functions. Each new discovery, be it in science, in philosophy, or in theology, has added to our knowledge. And each new piece of knowledge has provided us with a new experience. These experiences have greatly influenced the way we perceive the idea of God. Often, the traditional concept of or image of God is evolving by receding into what is yet unknown by science and reason. However, if we see God as the totality of experiences of the universe, whether physical, cultural, or personal, God is not a tangible entity, but rather an idea. Reverend Gingrich proposes that God be viewed as a concept like beauty. By its definition, beauty is the quality or the aggregate of qualities in a person or thing that gives pleasure to the senses or pleasurably exalts the mind or the spirit. I find that very appealing. Beauty itself never appears to us, but we find the idea necessary to account for our delight in the symmetry and form of objects, people, or in experiences like sunsets, symphonies, sculptures, and others. Like beauty, God is made manifest through the character of our knowledge and of our experiences. The late Catholic scholar Thomas Berry called it the great story. This concept of God as the great story of the universe brings into harmony what I know through reason, science, experience, and emotions. This is an idea of God I can embrace. Amen. Our closing words today are by Theodore Parker. Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living.
Please join me now in the reading of the words for extinguishing our chalice flame, which are printed in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.